Here's something for you. Destiny 2 is both one of the best games ever for new players coming in, and probably one of the worst games for veteran players of the franchise. Now, I'm not saying this for some clickbaity YouTube title, because this is just a one-off video and I don't want people to follow me for ranting about a video game I used to love but now don't really love anymore. I guess I just want to talk about where Destiny went wrong for me. Because like a year ago, which is not too long ago, I guess, I made that video on how Destiny became my new favorite game. And now I'm at a point where I really don't know what Bungie could possibly do with the Witch Queen DLC to get me back, despite how good that DLC may actually become. I think Bungie in a way is suffering from success in my eyes, because Bungie has this formula for DLC and the content they release with Destiny that when it's done properly, it just works and so many people just engage with it. I think the problem for me is that I'm at a point where I've seen that same formula over and over and over too many times, and I just don't really care anymore. And if I feel that way, I figured there's got to be a lot of others out there as well who've been, playing this game since the very start that might also feel the same way. Surely, a lot of you are probably still enjoying the game to a certain degree, but one thing you cannot tell me is that this game still feels fresh to you. We're at a point where Reddit is starting to make predictions of the exact camera shots and player abilities that we'll see in the next trailer. And my guess is that they're probably going to be correct on at least 80% of these. That's honestly how predictable this game has become. Now, this is not a bad thing per se, of course. And while Destiny may be a bit confusing or even daunting to get into at first, there's just so much to explore and so many different experiences that new players could have. And for new players, more of the same is probably a good thing. They drop in, there's 4 raids now. You want to have a 5th raid to try out? Awesome. So more of the same is really not a bad thing. And the same goes for dungeons. I would not hate to see another dungeon with the Witch Queen DLC. I still very much remember how much I loved the raids and the dungeons when they first came out, because everything was so fresh. Seeing the type of content that Bungie would put out and the extent that they would go to create experiences that are so far from the normal gameplay and yet still so good, that's what got me excited for this franchise, and that's what got me invested. Now, I know that since then, 5 raids have been removed, along with the secret missions I really used to love. And that was kind of a blow, I think, for the part of the game that introduces and sells the game to the new players. Because those type of one-off experiences, you could only get those in Destiny, and honestly, if it weren't for those, I would have never kept playing Destiny so long to begin with. But to be fair, Bungie has been replacing that content with new content in the same fashion. We have the Deepstone Crypt raid, Vault was added, and then the Presage mission, or Presage, or I don't know how you call that. Throw in another raid, dungeon, and secret mission with the Witch Queen DLC, and honestly, we're almost back at full strength as that the game was before Beyond Light, regarding unique experiences for new players. But here's the thing though, again, I think I'm at a point, and I guess a lot of other players might be at this point as well, where even if we get this brand new raid and a new dungeon, I don't think I'll be that excited anymore, simply because I just know so well what to expect at this point. The first and the second time I raided in Destiny, it felt like a true adventure, like you're young again, a kid again, playing a game. But now that I've raided so much, I can kind of predict what the raid will be like, how many encounters we'll see, how the mechanics are laid out, how the raid works. And with that, I mean things such as remembering the mechanics that you'll learn in the first couple of encounters, because you'll need to apply those for the final encounter and the boss. Or the fact that between encounters, there's going to be a jumping section with very likely a hidden chest. Or the fact that encounters with bosses always have one certain thing you have to do to unlock the boss phase and then go into a DPS phase where you all just stack up in a well and do as much damage as you can, rinse and repeat. Usually that's 3 or 4 phases with contest mode or 1 or 2 phases without. The biggest surprise in Garden of Salvation for me was that on the first real boss, the guy actually starts walking backwards, so you can't stand in a well or in a bubble. That's the thing that threw me off the most in that raid. Now, you could argue, of course, that the mechanics and the environments themselves, that is what make each raid stand out. And I agree. All of what I just mentioned, those are the same things that Last Wish does. The thing with Last Wish is maybe it's a bit longer and it throws in like a red herring right at the end. But Last Wish is, in my opinion, still one of the best pieces of content in any game ever. Or, close to it at least. And I'm also not going to sit here and pretend that I didn't think that the Deepstone Crypt wasn't a good raid, because it was a very good raid despite it being a little bit easy once the contest mode was removed. But as someone who's raided a lot now and has probably played the dungeons and secret missions a bit too much for my own good, I really don't think that adding yet another piece of content following the exact same formula would really get me all too excited. And then I'm not even talking about the actual storyline that would come with the DLC. I'm afraid that the Witch Queen storyline, the whole story thing, is going to be set up in the exact same way as Beyond Light and Shadowkeep and Forsaken. With the leveling system, you get gear to level up, and then there's the powerful grind, and then you're ready for the raid. Not exactly the most fun thing to do. So what, should Bungie just change everything because I'm getting too tired of the same old with a different paint job? No, that is of course not the answer, because again, the formula is obviously still working very well. Every time a DLC comes out, sure, there are some veteran players that say that they were hoping for something more and that the next DLC is probably going to be make or break for them. And even though they're right, for every person that feels like that and kind of dips out, there's another one coming in that is just in sheer awe by the amount of high quality and varied content that the game has. For every player dipping, there's probably 1 or 2 players joining the game and checking it out and being really excited for it. This is why you see every Destiny YouTuber grow in size over the years. More subscribers, all the Twitch streamers get more followers. But then you look at the view count per video or the amount of viewers that a certain streamer is getting year by year, the numbers don't really seem to grow that much. So we're getting a lot of people joining in and subscribing to all these YouTubers, and then we have other people dipping out and not unsubscribing. It's a nice balance of new people coming in and old people leaving. So here's the thing that I was thinking the other day, and I think that this is pretty interesting, and this is actually where the meat of the video is, because I feel like a lot of people might already know all of what I just said. So here's 2 things, right? I'm going to make 2 pretty bold statements. First up is that a lot of players still playing today, right now, know that Destiny is quite still and feel this pain, but they keep playing the game anyway because they're hopeful for the future of the game. Because, you know, Destiny 2 at its core, it's a really great feeling game. The shooting mechanics, the movement, it's all really good. So even if the game is still right now, people are hoping it will be better in the future. That's statement 1. Here's statement 2. I think that Bungie has pretty much gotten to a place where this is where they want Destiny to be, and they're not looking to evolve the game much further. They've probably realized that with a peer-to-peer network system, PvP will never be anything bigger than it is right now. And they've also realized that the formula they have been using for PvE content, such as the story missions, the raid, the dungeons, it all works well enough to keep a steady and sturdy core player base. So there's not really a need for them to do things different in the future. Again, these seem to collide a little bit with each other, and they can sound a bit contradictory, but I also think that both of these statements are at least for a big part true. Now, obviously, Bungie still cares very much about Destiny 2. The developers are still very passionate about the game. I'm not saying anything else. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen all those engine and back-end changes that came with Beyond Light, etc., etc. So they're in it for the long haul. But the developers have also realized what Destiny is and what Destiny isn't. And they aren't taking or ever going to take the required steps to take this game to a level that a lot of players still playing today are hoping for it to become. And that's where I think the issue is. You know, if you look at it, Bungie took half a year to finally fix stasis a tiny bit since it ever came out and fully destroyed the PvP experience. Bungie still hasn't fully worked out the issues in Trials yet. And, you know, things such as the holiday events, they have been unchanged or removed entirely year over year. We still don't even have things such as loadouts in the game. And you could say that all of these things is because they lack the manpower or because of COVID, which is probably true to a certain degree. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I also believe that Destiny simply isn't that much of a priority anymore, to the point where everything just has to be awesome about it. Bungie is currently developing another unannounced game, which is set to be a competitive PvP arena shooter. So I'm sure some of their best PvP stuff is really busy there. And who knows what else they might be cooking up and what lead game designers might have to work on that. Of course, I'm not saying Destiny 2 will be neglected, because it's a cash cow. It's a very, very lucrative game, very popular, and very far away from dying. But I'm also pretty sure it's not going to evolve much more beyond this point, a couple of subclasses and exotics aside. And I honestly think that expecting Destiny to evolve much more at this point would be too much to ask, because how big would the changes need to be to satisfy the group of players that feel the way that I feel? And would that even be Destiny anymore at that point? Would it not just be easier to make a new game to satisfy that crowd? And yeah, okay, you see where I'm going with this. They are making other games. It's gonna be a hard pill to swallow for some of you, but what Destiny is right now is probably what it will be in 1 year, or in 2 years, or in 3 years. And I think for many players that will be great, but for me, I don't know. It's not too interesting to me anymore. It's become very still. Kind of like my own YouTube content, right? Pushing people off a cliff is fun once or twice, but I think we've all seen that now. I actually had the same problem with The Division back in the days. Many will say that The Division died with Division 2 because of its poor post-launch updates and bad PvP. And sure, there's some truth to that. But Division for me died exactly 1 year after its launch, when they had this big stream to celebrate the 1 year anniversary, and the game director got on stream to announce that there would be no more content updates for The Division going forward. This was of course later reverted because of the huge outbreak it caused among the player base, and we did get a patch 1.7 and a patch 1.8 with a map expansion and some other cool stuff, but the fact that the game director came out and said that there would be no more big content updates, that just showed me how little Ubisoft was still invested in Division 1. And that Division 1 would never be that next big game. It would never evolve to the point that I would hope it to evolve to. And that was just, that's the moment that Division died for me, honestly. Of course, I still rode out all the waves, but that was it for me. Yes, the game had many cheaters, just like Destiny right now. Yes, the game had bad, unbalanced PvP, maybe even worse than Destiny 2 right now. And the game had a plethora of other issues, maybe even more than Destiny 2 right now. But many players, including myself, always kept playing, hoping for things to get better because we loved the core of the game that was underneath. That time never came for Division 2. And if you're in that camp with Destiny 2 right now, I also have to say that I think the time will probably never come for Destiny 2. It's a good game now, it will continue to be a good game in the future, but if you're still holding on for it to become something more, I just think that's not going to happen. And that's also why I'm simply no longer that invested in Destiny 2. The formula they have is great, it's awesome for new players, but as someone who's seen that now and played that now, I'm just tired of it. I am going to check out the Witch Queen DLC and participate in the raid race. That's always a fun thing to do. I'll check it out because, you know, again, by no means Destiny 2 is a bad game. But if it once again fails to mix up the formula, I don't think I'll be down for it in the long run. And I'm afraid that, you know, a lot of other people are going to feel that same way, especially because it's going to be a while until this DLC comes out, with no other content drops other than the new season in sight. I of course could also be very wrong, and the situation I just described might not apply to a lot of other players unless they're also content creators. But I wanted to share this regardless because it's my channel. And before I make a full transition to another style of content, I have yet to announce, and I'm excited to show you guys. I wanted this to be my sort of exit letter to anybody that really cares enough. So yeah, thank you all for watching all my Destiny content over the years. I really appreciate it. And maybe I'll see you all soon. Bye.